Good day. I am Rev Melissa, Spiritual Director at Rockland Centers for Spiritual Living in New York. And this is New Thought Media Network's Black History Moment. Today's Black History Moment is honoring Wendell Oliver Scott. Scott was born August 21st, 1921 in Danville, Virginia. Scott broke NASCAR's color barrier. He was one of the first African American drivers in NASCAR and the first African American to win a race in the Grand National Series, NASCAR's highest level. He learned about cars from his auto mechanic father. His first job was driving a taxi before he started running moonshine whiskey, which required him to drive really fast in order to evade the police. At the time, Danville's racing scene was struggling with attendance. Owners thought recruiting an African American driver would help fill the seats. They asked the local police for the fastest driver in town. And in 1952, Scott became the first African American to compete in an official stock car race. He would go on to win 120 races in lower divisions while continually being denied entry into NASCAR because of his race. Then in 1961, Scott was able to take over the auto racing license of a white NASCAR driver, Mike Poston. He was officially a member of NASCAR's top level Grand National Circuit, the first African American to do so. Just 2 years later, Scott became the first Black driver to win a NASCAR Premier Series event with a victory at the 100-mile race at Speedway Park in Jacksonville, Florida. By the end of his career in 1973, Scott had accumulated 20 top 5 finishes. Scott was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2015. Scott died at 69 on December 23, 1990, of spinal cancer. It would be another 23 years before a second African American, Buddha Wallace, won a NASCAR race, which is a full half century after Scott accomplished that feat. Scott's mantra was, when it's too tough for everybody, it's just right for me. And so it is. Amen. And so I want to end this Black History Moment with a video from Wendell Scott Oliver's family about his life.
He started racing in 1952, and it was like Picasso, like a great artist doing his work. And he was in that car, he was doing his work. But he couldn't get the support where other drivers that we were competing against had major sponsorship. He did everything that he did out of his own pocket. And as children, we didn't have that leisure time. We couldn't go to the playground. He said to us, "I need you at the garage." I can remember him getting injured, and he'd just take axle grease and put it in the cut and keep working. But he wasn't allowed to race at certain speedways. He had death threats not to come to Atlanta. And Daddy said, "Look, if I leave in the pine box, that's what I got to do, but I'm going to race." I can remember him racing in Jacksonville, and he beat them all. But they wouldn't drop the checkered flag. And then when they did drop the checkered flag, they had my father in third place. One of the main reasons that they gave was there was a white beauty queen, and they always kissed the driver. He finally got the money. But, of course, the trophy was gone. The fans were gone. The beauty queens were gone.
Did he ever consider not racing anymore?
Never. That was one of my daddy's saying. When it's too tough for everybody else, it's just right for me. Like I can remember one time when we were racing Atlanta 500, and he was sick. He needed an operation, and I said, "Daddy, we don't have to race today." He whispered to me and said, "Lift my legs up," and put me in the car. He drove 500 miles that day. He always felt like someday he's gonna get his big break, but for 20 years nobody mentioned Wendell Scott. But he didn't let it drive him crazy. I think that's what made him so great. He chose to be a race car driver, and he was gonna race until he couldn't race no more.